This U.S. expat living here in the Dominican Republic shares 5 really kind of shocking reasons why he left the country. And he actually reveals the answer. Was he running away or maybe running toward the Dominican Republic? And really at the end of the day for you, is it time to leave? Let's dive in. What's up, everybody? My name's Jamie Gruber. I moved to the Dominican Republic with my family in August of 2022, and I share on this channel that experience, what it's like living here or even just coming down here to take a look around. I'm doing my second reaction video on a guy whose account is called Abroad with Jay. Amazing guy. We've been in touch. We'll do a collaboration in the near future, and our stories sync up in so many different ways. I can't wait to dive in with him more because I honestly don't know enough about the guy other than what we talk about in WhatsApp. But sounds like he had a gig in the U.S., left it, moved here, same as me. Sounds like he's married to a Dominican woman, just like me. He's a little cooler, like the cigars and rum. Like, I'm boring. And he's better looking than me. I can admit that. He actually has color, whereas I look like a combination of Dr. Evil and Mini-Me. Maybe a little bit of powder, if anybody remembers that movie. Whereas Jay, dude looks tight. He's better looking than me. We'll just leave it at that. You get the point. But let's dive in. Let's look at what Jay had to say.
So in today's video, we're going to talk about running from or running to. And the reason why I came up with this topic is I seen a comment from a viewer that said in so many words that people like myself and other expats that move to other countries are running away from the United States because life is hard, and that they would rather stay and fight for the values that the country was founded on. I say to that, hey, knock yourself out.
Look, here's a point. I'll agree with him on this. Like, I get that. I'm patriotic, but I understand for somebody who's like, red, white, and blue, who might say you're patriotic, but you left the country. Now, remember, we left the country just for a one-year adventure, and then we ended up finding a lot of shared values here and decided to stay. And my wife's Dominican. Our kids are half Dominican. So it's not like we just went somewhere to run away from the country, but I get this sometimes too. In fact, somebody on TikTok said, "You don't like it, leave." And everybody replied to him like, "That's what he did." Screw you, guy on TikTok.
No, that's a lot of damage. No pun intended. See, I'm heading toward my 50s, and fighting a good fight is the last thing on.
If this dude's, look at him. He looks way better than me. Jay, I didn't know you were close to 50. Dude, I thought you were 5 years younger than me. 45 myself, going into 46 in October, but I need to do something.
I'm not interested in going down swinging in my final days. Now, when I was in my
Jay's gonna get me demonetized with that crap. We gotta bleep it.
My 20s, I did feel like Bishop from Juice.
You gotta snap some collars and let them motherfuckers know you there to take them out anytime you feel like it. You gotta get the ground beneath your feet, partner. Get the wind behind your back and go out the blaze if you got to.
But
can I tell you a quick story on Tupac? I had a guy named Exhibit on my podcast once. I did a live episode with him in San Francisco on stage in front of a bunch of guys. I wonder if you remember Exhibit. Drop it down in the comment. Alvin Joyner is his name. We keep up still. Amazing dude. But I asked him, because he had a beef with Tupac, if his beef with Tupac was based on some sort of like publicity stunt or whatever. And actually, hey, Dan, let's put it in. Let's show everybody what he had to say.
He wrote this song, and in the song he talks about like, all I want is money, the hell with the fame, and then you had a lyric that kind of played on that, and he assumed that was you talking to him. He was huge at that point. Was that a boost for you? Are these beefs in rap? Is that what they are? Is it a marketing ploy, or was that
No,
real?
it's not marketing. It could get pretty dangerous.
Yeah. So talk through that a little bit. What happened there? What happened?
Yeah, especially with Tupac. You know what I'm saying?
Tupac is dangerous. Yeesh.
and those days are long gone. And since I've gotten older and wiser, I've redefined how I want my golden years to play out in my life. And it's not fist bumping, it's not protesting, and it's not marching. It's one simple concept, and it's peace of mind. That is my focus. And wherever I can find that, that's where you'll find me. And listen, that place looks different for everyone. As the saying goes, what's one man's trash is another man's treasure. When I talk to people who are looking to move abroad, one of the main things they tell me is they're looking for a better quality of life. Now, what is quality of life? Is that just some buzzword that we're starting to use now? Or is this something really that everyone or many people are searching for? Now, quality of life is a highly subjective measure of happiness that looks different to different people. But typically, it's a degree in which an individual is healthy, comfortable, and has the ability to participate in or enjoy any life events. There are many indicators and factors that play a role in what an individual would call a quality of life. And here are some general factors that many use to determine what is quality of life. And it often includes financial security, job satisfaction, family life, social connections, education, physical and mental health, recreation and leisure time, safety, religious needs, and lastly, security and freedom.
Don't forget the sexy time, Jay. The sexy time.
Now, some, if not many, would be very important to you depending on where you are in life. So, for example, if you're not a very religious person, picking a country with strong religious belief may not be at the top of your list.
I'm going to say this on that. I'm not a religious person, and I don't know where he goes with this. We'll get into it. Maybe he says it in a second here, but DR is a religious country. We haven't been to church in a long time. But what is true is Christian values, or people who are religious, the values of family and friendship and honesty and integrity, those are part and parcel with a society that has a religious foundation. So I really, really like that about the Dominican Republic. Even though I'm not a churchgoer or overly religious, what do they say? I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. That's me. I like the values of what a religious country brings, and that aligns with our values.
If you're retired, job satisfaction isn't important to you. So picking a country with a bad job market doesn't really matter as long as you get the other things that satisfy you. And what it all comes down to is personal preference and which of those indicators fit your life. Because as you get older, your priorities shift. Things that were once important to you are no longer important, such as when you were a kid, partying every weekend, that was important. Drinking, girls, hanging out, that was important. But as you get older, the things that were unimportant at the time start to get a little more important, such as your health and watching what you eat. So as I creep to the half-century mark, I saw that shift in myself. So I want to share with you some of the indicators that I think that are important to me at the moment, and how that shift has led to me living life abroad. And these are in no particular order. And the first one is financial security. Now, although I haven't met this milestone yet, I am well on my way. And I know you're probably saying, how is leaving the richest country in the world over to a developing country assisting you in meeting that goal of financial security? And that's a fair question, and I'm glad you asked. And my answer to that is, moving to Dominican Republic allowed me to lower my cost of living. This allowed me to save more money that I can then turn around and invest more in my IRA.
There's two funny things here. If anybody follows Jordan Peterson, I love Jordan Peterson. He always does this thing where he has a full conversation with himself. So he asks a question. He says, that's what you're asking, so you ask this and I answer that. I love how Jay channeled his inner Jordan Peterson on this one. This is the question. I'm glad you asked. Jay, buddy, you asked yourself. Just making sure. Making sure you're not going crazy over in Santo Domingo, buddy. And also for me, I've talked about my expenses doubled since moving here. And that is because we chose a much higher cost area to live. We'll see where we decide to kind of settle in. We rented, we were going to be here short term. So we kind of lived up to that, like, it's just a year, let's go for it life. And we've stayed in that. We'll see what we do over the next year or two. But Jay, being smarter than me, saved some money coming here and is getting financial freedom as a result of that. The other thing that I think maybe more spiritually, it's more Zen, man, something like that. Being in an environment that inspires you, I've noticed, creates more income generating opportunities for you. There's something to alignment with your soul, with the energy that you bring or whatever, and the environment that you're in that creates more abundance for you. Now I'm going all on you, huh? But it's true. I really believe in that concept. We're all energy at the end of the day, and if you're tapped into a certain frequency, it's going to generate more of a return at that frequency. I'll leave it there before we get all crazy and I start doing shrooms with you.
And also into real estate. When I was living in Fort Lauderdale, based on the cost of living there, I was not able to save and invest at the rate that I am now. So by moving here, it makes my path to financial security even quicker. And I'm not saying this can't be done in the United States, because it absolutely can. But doing it the way that I'm doing it, this route made better sense to me. As I said, it gets me on the path to financial security a whole lot quicker. Which leads me to the next one, is job satisfaction.
Before we get into job satisfaction, he just made me think of something as I reflect. I've talked to a lot of Florida people. I've even done videos about why DR is better than Florida. Today, I'm going to share with you 5 reasons why moving to the Dominican Republic is way better than Florida. And if the first 4 don't convince you, trust me, the 5th one will. And the cost of living, from what I've learned in places like South Fort Lauderdale, Miami, so on, has accelerated dramatically. I came from Michigan. Our cost of living was really low where we lived. And we lived in a great neighborhood, kind of Ann Arbor, a little bit north of there. In the US, the expenses were so low because we lived in a very inexpensive place. Like, who's moving to Michigan? Love you, Michigan, but no one's moving there. Except for one guy, actually, that I know that went there to be an engineer from Miami. But let's not forget him. So I guess this is key. Like, if you're living in a high cost area in the US and you want to come to Punta Cana, you're probably going to pay about the same. If you live in a low cost area in the US and you come to Punta Cana, you're going to pay more. If you're living in a high cost area in the US and you go to Santo Domingo, probably going to pay less. You get it. Let's hear about job satisfaction.
Now, I think this one got to me or weighed on me heavily while I was living in the United States.
Amen, brother.
I just got to the point where I was tired of working the 9-to-5 rat race. It didn't matter how good the company was, how much they paid me. I was just not interested in working for anybody or at any company, especially if I had to physically be there. I wanted to be location independent. And the only way that I can experience job satisfaction, that was me getting out and working for myself. And the funny thing about it, I actually work more now than I did when I had my 9-to-5. But the difference is, I love what I do.
Boom. I do too. I work my ass off. I say this on certain things, especially when I get vilified for having used to be an executive making 400 plus grand a year. I work a lot now. That's all I don't have hobbies. I have family and work essentially, but I freaking love it. And I saw somebody speak recently at a conference. Her name is Cody Sanchez. She's a big business acquisition person. I've known her for a bit. And she said, you don't retire from a life you love. So that's what Jay's talking about. He's actually doing something. I'm not sure exactly what it is yet. I'll find out. And if he lets me, I'll report on it. But what he's doing, whatever it is fulfilling. So he doesn't hate doing it. He likes kind of diving in and doing the work. Same for me. I'm starting to kind of identify myself as a creator. So I have businesses like an event business and a membership company and a real estate business. All of that's great. But really what I love doing and where all of that comes from is creating, whether it's my podcast, Tribe of Millionaires, or it's this channel or my Instagram account or whatever. And I love creating. For 21 years, I was in the walls of a corporation, didn't create shit. But now I get to create, I get to release that creativeness inside of me, and you all get to deal with it.
The next important indicator to me was family life. Now, over the years, this one has become more and more and more important to me. I really enjoy spending time with my wife and my daughter. And being able to work from home and control my schedule has allowed me the ability to do so. And I can tell you right now, it's been very rewarding. And the next one is leisure time. A little similar to the family time, but slightly different because this is time for yourself. Now, personally, I don't require a lot of leisure time. However, it's still important to me. So when I decide I want to take a day off or take a half a day off or just get up in the middle of the day and go to a cigar bar and relax, I want to know I got that flexibility to do so. For me, I have to feel like I have some sort of control over my life or else I don't feel motivated. The next one is social connections.
I love that. I love that because I feel the same way. Here, I can disconnect and go do what I have to do. Leisure time for sure. Now, granted, I've left a job, so I could take leisure time, I guess, where I want to. But I mean, just imagine this. I'm in Michigan. Leisure time is like go to Starbucks on a gray day. Leisure time here is go around the corner to one of the most fantastic beaches in all of the Caribbean, if not the world. A place where people save all year to go and get excited about. They get in the best shape they can to go to this beach that I go to whenever I want to. Man, tell you what, when you say it that way, and this is a real moment for me, that just... How blessed. And I'm going to give myself a bit of a pat on the back because it takes some balls to walk away from a big job. It sounds like Jay did the same, making a bunch of money with a wife who's staying at home and all of that, and move your family somewhere. You know, it's my life. So day by day, it just kind of stacked on itself. It doesn't seem like, wow, that's so cool a story. It's almost like watching your kids grow. Like you see them, so you can't notice how big a distinction they are, like in moments, but like the grandparents might see them once a year and, oh my God, they're so big. Same thing. The move I made, thinking on it's a big deal, and to be blessed to be that close to a premier beach, a place where people save and scrimp all year to go. Wow, that's pretty cool.
I consider myself an introvert. Some people may say different because I'm here on YouTube, but really I am an introvert. But I promised myself when I moved over to the Dominican Republic that I will get out a little bit more, network a little bit more. And I've been able to do that just by having this YouTube channel. I've been able to meet some great people being a part of my wife's YouTube channel. And now with my own YouTube channel, I've continued to meet great people. And I can tell you right now, I've been loving every minute of it.
You know, it's funny. That's one thing for me that's been really fun as well. Like, I'm not necessarily introverted. I'm not as extroverted as I may come across either. Like, I like my alone time. So I go to a conference, like I do the thing, I can show up and I have a good time talking to people. Then I want to get to the room and have me time. So maybe an omnivert. Omnivert is the phrase I've heard for that. But my Instagram and now my YouTube, it gets me recognized by people and I get to meet these really cool people. And I always ask them the same thing, especially if they live here. It's like, what do you do? Only because I want to share that with all of you. Not the person's name and their story, but just an example of what they do to earn money and live here. The other thing is I'm a big fan and I pay a lot of money every year to surround myself with incredible people. I join things called masterminds, if anybody's ever heard of these. They're like communities that you pay money for to be around certain people that share certain values. So I'm in like an entrepreneur mastermind, I'm in a marketing mastermind, and so on. Think of it like a country club, but with a specific purpose for your life, not just networking for the sake of networking, but networking to grow your business or networking to learn more about marketing, that kind of thing. So moving here, like I've met some incredible people. And this is where like we pay more to be in a neighborhood, but the neighbors that I'm surrounded with, some of the folks I've met, like owners of big businesses, there's a guy in the neighborhood who hosted an event for Meta executives. Like, no joke. There's another dude here who sold a payment processing company for 50+ million and moved down to the Dominican. I'm not going to meet them in the $600 a month apartment or $150 a month spot, wherever in the country. But there is a hell of a network here. Where he is in Santo Domingo, I went to an EO, Entrepreneur Organization event, which was keynoted by a friend of mine who's a billionaire. Because I'm cool, man. But I met amazing entrepreneurs there. So the networking and the community down here and all of that, if you're intentional with it, like Jay is, like I am, really incredible. And this is where people who get all lost on like DR, is this DR, is that, like most people don't understand 2024 DR. They just don't.
And safety is the next one. And I can already hear somebody saying, but I thought DR wasn't safe.
Jay,
well,
I thought DR wasn't safe.
Ask, you will get a different answer to that question. I personally don't feel that DR is dangerous. I feel safe, and the Dominicans that I talk to have told me the same thing. Now, I can say this, depending on where that Dominican lives, you'll get a different answer. And the last one is security and freedom. So what do I mean by security? What I mean by security is political stability. And Dominican Republic has ranked high lately in political stability. And what I mean by freedom is sort of to live your life.
That is a great point, and one that I get a ton of pushback on. I'm glad he's saying it. And look, he and I both being Americans, never having lived anywhere else, we're coming from like land of the free, home of the brave, right? Like the stable nation in the world or whatever. And so are you if you've lived in the United States for any period of time. But there's always noise about corruption here. Yes, it exists. Does in the US too, if you haven't noticed. Can anyone say Hunter Biden laptop? Others talk about like, money being funneled to politicians and all that. Sure. And again, I know of many politicians in the US that went in on $80,000 a year salaries for a lifetime and came out worth $100 million. So, I mean, it's just more overt and obvious here, perhaps, but it exists in both places. But his point here is you're seeing in this country right now, I can see and feel and touch it, a level of stability that's far and away better than even when I started coming here 10, 15 years ago. In addition, corruption seems to be more limited than it's been in the past. Yeah, a cop might shake you down for money, but not as much as you might think. There is positive movement here, and that's what he's speaking to. The other part is freedom. Like he said freedom. He'll get to whatever he's going to say, but like, I don't feel any less free in this society than I do in the United States to say what I want to say, to do what I want to do. In fact, there's maybe too many freedoms. Like, we've kind of morphed into like kids hop in the back of the station wagon, we're running to the beach. It's not far, but like in the US, it was like, oh my God, you have to have them in a seatbelt on a car seat. And some may be like, well, why does that change your safety? It's just, I guess when in Rome, you just sort of kind of get used to it. And to be honest with you, that's how I grew up. Me and my sisters would climb into the back of a station wagon and we'd go on a 4-hour drive from Islip, New York up to Oneonta, New York. I don't remember there being seatbelts. I just remember our 2 big dogs on top of us. So freedom includes maybe less restrictive laws, even if those laws are good for safety. Like in the US, they're not present here and you kind of lean into them. But let's see what Jay has to say.
Life without big brother watching over everything you do or trying to control everything you do. Now, I'm not saying I want to live in a society with no rules because that's anarchy. But I want to be able to go to a grocery store, pop my top on my Presidente, and walk down the street drinking my Presidente. I should be able to do that, right? Or if I want to put 5 people on my motorcycle, cool. I should be able to do it, right?
I see that all the time. That's funny. So Jay version of freedom, just making sure on this, Jay. You tell me if I'm wrong. Getting drunk and grabbing 5 people on a bike. I like your style, man. I like you even more now. No, but in all seriousness, his big brother point is valid. Like, I'll give you this. When I get pulled over, there's no like tracking of me. So while I don't have a DR license and probably should, because I think I'm supposed to get one after like 3 months, they have no idea how long I've been here. I just tell them I've been here a couple of weeks. Pro tip, don't bring your passport with you when you travel around. We leave that at home. But there's no like system making sure they know exactly where you are, when you are, and all of that stuff. That could be good, that could be bad. But for most of us who are law-abiding, just want to do our thing and live our life, he's absolutely right about the freedom piece.
So to sum it up, switching countries and moving abroad has allowed me to a quicker path to financial security, which provided job satisfaction, more family and leisure time, which created more opportunity for social connection. Not to mention that I feel safe and secure, my family feels safe and secure, which gives us that freedom that we were looking for. So I say to you, find your happy place. And for those who think expats like myself or people who move abroad are running from something, nah, we're running to something. So until then, always keep your goals at the forefront of your mind. Always live in the present, because that's the only way you're going to live your best life. And I'm out.
I love it. Jay, he's out. He summed that up so well. I hope you got a ton of value out of that. I appreciate you, Jay. We'll talk soon. Be sure if you want to watch anything about safety, if you want to go deeper on this point about safety, I'll put that video right here so you can watch that. I did this recently for you. See you next time.